Hey guys, I'm Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and on this episode of Classic and Vintage, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This time, we're going to be making a 24-inch block, and it's called Wood Lily, and we found it in an old newspaper from 1936. So we are basing our block on this one. And it is very big, but the pieces are big. I would say it's more of an intermediate block, but you can definitely do it. It's a free block pattern. It would make a great table topper just like this, or you can buy a low price pattern to turn it into a quilt. So let's get started. Download the free Wood Lily block pattern at Fat Quarter Shop, and this block uses 6 different fabrics. You're going to have 6 prints ranging from light to dark to accent and 1 background. And you start off really easy with 1 square, 2 rectangles, and what you're going to do is first put the J and the B together with a 1/4 inch seam and press. And in our patterns, we have arrows, so just follow the arrows when you're pressing. Once that's done, you're going to add the fabric A, press, and this is going to be your unit. For each block, you're going to make 4. Once you have this done, we'll take this away, and you're going to keep building. You're going to add a fabric D rectangle to this side. Just make sure you're on this corner. Sew a 1/4 inch seam and then press. And then you're going to add a fabric C rectangle. Now, when you get to this point, it should measure 8.5 by 8.5, and you're going to make 4. Now, once you have this, you're going to take 2 fabric K squares. On the wrong side, draw a line from corner to corner. I'm using a friction pen. That's my preferred marking method. You're going to do that on the back of 2 of your squares. You're going to add a fabric K to the top right and the bottom left. And when you have that place, you want to make sure you've got white here and then this little section in the bottom right. Now, once you get here, so I'm going to show you 2 methods. You can either pin like this to keep it in place. When you start sewing here, you're going to use an open toe or a foot that won't pull on this fabric. You're going to sew with a straight line on here. And if you don't pin accurately, or if you don't pin at all, you might get a wavy line. So you can either pin or you can use glue. And this right here is precision acorn glue. And you can do either one. And you're going to sew directly on that line, and I'm using Aurifil color 2000. I don't want my thread color to show up. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim a 1/4 inch away from this line. I just put the 1/4 inch line on my Creative Grids ruler right on that drawn line, and I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch away. I do try to be accurate here. If you cut too far, you will have bulk. If you cut too small, it just gets a little risky with your block. And from here, we're going to press, and again, we are making 4 of these. Now what we're going to do is set our seam by just putting the iron right on it. I'm going to press each to one side, and then I'm going to press open. When you look at this block, there are a lot of seams. So I prefer to just press open to make it easier. Now what I'm going to do right here is once I press open and it's nice and hot, I'm going to put a clapper on one side. This is wood, and it's going to make that seam lie nice and flat. And you're going to do this on all 4 blocks. And I will just let that sit there while I'm doing my next step. Now we're going to make flying geese, and flying geese are really easy. It's a basic quilting technique. You're going to use 2 fabric K squares and a fabric I rectangle. And what we're going to do is put 1 K square on the left side. And you're going to have bottom left with a point and then center point in the top center. And you're going to do that same method where you either pin or glue, stitch directly on that line, and it's going to look like this. So what you'll do, again, trim a 1/4 inch away, and I'm going to press. I'm going to set my seam, press to one side, and then I'm going to press open. And I'm going to let this sit for just about maybe 30 seconds. And then what you'll do is take the other fabric K square, line it up like this, stitch directly on your line. Again, use pins or glue to keep that in place for more accurate results. Trim a 1/4 inch away and do the same thing where you set your seam, press to one side, and anytime you're making a flying geese, you want to make sure right here this is a 1/4 inch. So if your point is not a 1/4 inch away from the top, you will not have an accurate point. And then from there, press open. And then what you'll do is just put the clapper on it. It doesn't matter if it's on the front or the back. You're going to be making 4 flying geese for each block. And with this fabric, we didn't do orange. We did like a medium gray, so it wouldn't overpower the block. So this next part, we're working with star points, and you need the same color fabric. So we have a fabric E and a fabric H, and we put them in the same color, and it's gonna work best if you have the same color. You're gonna sew these with a 1/4 inch seam, and you're gonna make 8 of these. Once you have 8, we're gonna make 1 unit. So we need 2 of each. To make it easy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out as if we are making the full unit. So you don't want it to be like this, you want it to be like this. So you have 2 fabrics that touch and 2 opposing fabrics. And you're gonna take 2 fabric K squares. Again, I've drawn the line. We're going to be making a point like this. So what you'll do is just stitch directly on those lines, but you wanna be careful. Don't cut yet. What you're gonna do is do the same thing. You've drawn on the line and you don't wanna cut. So what I'm gonna do is look at this, and I'm just looking at it as the perspective of this is how that star point should look. So once I have that, I'm going to cut the other side. So this is the correct way. I'll flip this back and cut. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over here just to make sure my 2 matching fabrics are here. And I would probably do one of these first, get used to it before you make all of them. And it looks like this. And then from here, you can either press this one towards the white and this one away from the white, or you can press open. I'm gonna press them open. So once I've pressed, like I said, I pressed open, I'm going to, again, put them together, make sure I've got a V of whites and the same prints right here. Now I'm gonna show you a tip. When I'm pinning, you wanna make sure your fabrics are together. So I've got my white together, my orange together, and I'm going to pin right here. And I accidentally put 2 pins in at one time. You're only supposed to put 1 in. Sew with a 1/4 inch seam, and you will get this. Now what we're gonna do is take this unit, and we're going to take one of the flying geese and put it on top. And so you've got your gray up here, your white here, and if you've pressed everything open, you won't have a lot of bulk here. And you'll do that same thing with pinning, is you'll make sure everything lines up really nice and pin each side. Once it's lined up and pinned, I'm going to also put a pin in the center, stitch with a 1/4 inch seam, and this will be your unit. And you're going to be making 4 of these. Now for the easiest part of the block, we saved that for the very end. You're gonna take your fabric F, H, and G fabrics, and you're gonna lay them out just like this. And then you're going to sew these 2 with a 1/4 inch seam, press according to the pattern, and then you're going to add those to the top and bottom. And it's going to look just like this. So it's kind of like a fat, chunky plus sign, and that's the center of your block, and you only have to make 1. So now what you're gonna do is lay out your pieces starting with your center. And what you should see is the star forming right here. And if you wanna have fun, you could rotate these. You would have a totally different block. So you can always kind of change blocks up. if you want. And what you're going to want to do is sew with a 1/4 inch seam, press, and then sew your last 2 seams. And what I would say is, as you are pinning, you'll want to make sure these points right here line up, and you can achieve that by pinning. You can see all of our points match up, and that is why at the beginning of the video I said it was an intermediate block. Just build your skills and you will eventually be able to build this block. We used the Late October collection by Sweetwater, and I think the oranges really made this block. So if you wanted to do something similar, you could do that with red or blue and just do different shades of a color. I love the wood lily block. I love that it's nice, big, and it's a little bit harder than our other videos, so it's nice and challenging. Now, orange isn't my usual color, but you could do this with any color. I would love to see what you make. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on another video. Bye!